Hey, Donna here from the Everything Saxophone Podcast, and we're here at the Key Leaves Everything Saxophone Podcast booth. It's the NAMM Hang 2019, and I'm here with Derek Brown. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Donna. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we were at the jam last night, the Rodner Leger Jody Jazz Jam, and you just tore the place up. You were amazing.
Well, thanks. I'm just trying to hang with all the other guys and gals. They sounded great. Donna was playing, sounding amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's fun to just, share my thing, play in my strange little way, but also do some, kind of more traditional jamming with some of the others.
And, it's interesting because we were just talking about this beforehand. People don't realize he's an amazing player, amazing jazz player. You hear him doing the beatbox stuff all the time, which is amazing. It's innovative. It's creative. He can play, folks. He can really play. So those are the folks that checked out the jam last night. I'm sure there's probably going to be video, too. Just amazing stuff.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I did study, I studied first traditional classical music at Hope College, and then I was a jazz studies major at University of Cincinnati, and then I was the director of jazz studies at Abilene Christian University, and so I have a big jazz background and some classical, and yeah, it wasn't really until, when I was 30, I'm kind of telling my age here, I'm 35, when I really started to kind of find I had something new to say with this, with this, whatever you want, I guess beatbox sax style. I don't even like that name because I'm not really beatboxing, but whatever you want to call it, it wasn't until much later that I kind of really found oh wow, this is energizing to me creatively, and it seems to be connecting with audiences, so I'm going to keep going that direction. But I always love, the traditional jazz and classical stuff.
Well, I think it helped to build your chops and helped to build the creativity.
Absolutely.
I remember we were talking in the podcast episode we did a while ago how, world music really affected, your sensibilities, your creativity. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when I was in undergrad, I remember, studying, the history of the saxophone music, but also I was a little bit restless, and so I would, go to the music library and just check out all this world music, music from Africa, from Australia, Aboriginal music, traditional Scottish music, and I almost felt bad doing it. I was supposed to only be listening to my Charlie Parker, and I'm glad that I had periods where I did listen to that hardcore, for that vocabulary. But, I kind of felt like I was, wow, what am I doing listening to this other stuff? But little did I know, that music, through osmosis was kind of seeping in and always making me not content to just always play music the same way. And, how can I use some of this stuff? And I think a lot of it wasn't even on purpose. It wasn't even I'm going to try to be different. It was just, wow, that sounds cool. I could kind of play like this, and then it just slowly, one thing led to another, and now I'm just doing this weird solo sax thing.
It's awesome, and it just reminded me too. I recently visited the Music Instrument Museum in Phoenix area. I don't know if you've been there.
No.
You would really appreciate it because it's a beautiful museum, one of the 20 best in the country, and it's every single country and area in the world. Their cultural music, the instruments that are there. I think you'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I remember going to a Music Instrument Museum in Leipzig, Germany. I was there for 4 years. That's where Bach did all of his stuff. And I remember thinking it was really cool because they had all this kind of the history of the piano and the clavichord. And you would see pianos that could fold up. These are all acoustic. You'd see pianos that they found a way where you could press the key and you could shake it and make vibrato. And these are hundreds of years old. They had pianos that could do the different types of tuning where the keys would have two spots where you could hit to go slightly. And I'm thinking, in the history, it seemed like there was this evolution of these instruments, and then they kind of just got to this point where they stopped. Everyone's making saxophones, but they make them exactly the same way. They look different.
Yeah.
And so I was inspired to be what? I can add little things to my saxophone. I can hit it. I could make little grooves here to make little guiro sounds. I can put rings on my fingers, and because people have been doing that since the beginning of music, evolving this music. And so I'm just a big proponent of just seeing what new things we can do.
I'm telling you, you're going to love that museum because they do the exact same thing.
Okay,
And
cool.
what you just said right now really resonates with me because I saw the evolution, for example, the oboe throughout all these different countries, Indonesian countries and stuff.
Yeah.
And now you're right. Yeah, there's nothing new.
Yeah, and I remember seeing like some horn instruments, some brass instruments that almost looked like something out of Dr. Seuss, where there were like 18 different bells coming out. And I just imagine, you'd get laughed at today. And sometimes I do get laughed at for some of the things I'm doing. But that's just the history of music. And then we could talk about the history of, stylistically how music has evolved. And I think that is something, it is continuing to evolve. There will always be the people that kind of, the kind of police of the world that don't like that. And it's good to preserve some traditions, but, that's one of the things I like about jazz in general. It's kind of more open to stealing from...
And pushing the boundaries.
Yeah,
which is exactly what I think you're doing. And the only thing that we get, we're like, oh my God, he's hitting his horn. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think that would have been painful for me too, maybe even 5 years ago. But one of the ways that I experimented was I actually, online, I purchased the cheapest saxophone I could find. I found a $200 horn online.
Wow.
A new tenor sax. Actually played pretty well. Not this horn at all, but I got that for the point of, with my rings, I was like, what makes sound if I do? Oh, that sounds cool. But then I also realized, that kind of dents right there. Maybe I should reinforce that a little bit. I used to play on an old Mark VI, and I realized, a lot of times people think that this P. Morat horn is a Mark VI. It looks really old, but that's just because I beat it up. But yeah, I think if I was doing that on a vintage horn, people would really hate me. But I love this horn, and I like to experiment on it.
Your repairman must love you too.
Yeah, I've had a lot of emergency visits. I've also gotten used to, I bring my screwdrivers on tour. I bring the duct tape, the rubber bands.
Hey, duct tape is great for everything.
There was a clip I just recently posted on my Instagram channel of this, I called it Every Sax Player's Worst Nightmare. And it was, and you can see it. Yeah, I just posted it like a week ago, and it's just my sax standing there. I'm talking to the audience, and the sax just drops to the floor. That was not part of the show.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, but it's okay now. It was a 3-hour emergency repair job, but it worked. So
all right, that's good.
The music community is pretty generous, I find, in wherever you go. And so there's some nice guys in Nashville that helped out.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to change focus here for a second. You did something very interesting in this last year. It was your 50-50 tour.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm calling it my 50-50 tour because it was originally supposed to be 50 gigs, 50 states, all 50 states. It's more like 75 gigs, 50 states, but it doesn't quite have the same ring. And I was doing a lot of touring overseas. Like I had a lot of success in Russia randomly. But then, with my wife back home and just, it's really romantic to think, I'm going to go overseas for my music. That's awesome. But after a while, it's like, it'd be nice to play some gigs closer to home. And maybe my wife could come. And so then we were thinking, how could we do that? Maybe we could get a van or maybe an RV and we could go to the States. And that was me, in this day and age, you have to, as an independent musician, you do everything yourself. I still don't have a booking agent, And so I thought, what would be the easiest way to get gigs in the U.S.? And I thought, with my YouTube videos, which that has by far been the best way for me to spread my music. If anyone has seen those, it's usually sax players. And so I thought, I could try sending an email to all these clubs around the, clubs or performing arts centers. There's a good chance they won't know who I am. But if I send an email, what if I sent an email to every sax professor in the country?
Yeah.
And I did. I looked up the emails to every sax professor, adjunct, full-time.
Wow.
I found like 700 emails. I sent them all out. My wife helped me out. And sure enough, it worked. People were like, hey, I love your stuff. I don't have a budget maybe, but I can talk to my chair. And that's just this idea of, knowing your audience. They always say that. It's so key. We're not, as much as we want our music to be for everybody, first of all, if you are going to please everybody, it's probably not going to be something, I don't know.
You won't please anybody. That's
Exactly. That's the way to do it. So, find your niche, and maybe you can expand beyond that. Like, I love it when a non-sax player, listens to my music. But I know that right now, that is my audience. And so, that's who I make my YouTube videos for, sax tutorials and whatnot. But so that worked where, they were saying, hey, I'll talk to my chair, we'll bring you in. And soon enough, we had most of the 50 states booked, and it was like, let's just get these last ones and let's make it a big tour. We had an extremely generous friend, Chuck Surak, who actually lent us his RV for this tour, which could not have done it without him. So that was really, really key. And we're 31 states in, 19 to go. So I think we're going to do it.
That's awesome.
3 months to go.
Now, you also did another special project where you enlisted the help of saxophone players all throughout, I guess, the world, and it was for, I think, July 4th.
Yeah, so knowing that I was going to do this 50 states thing, I was kind of had the U.S. on the mind, and I don't want to get political, but there's a lot of negative stuff going on, and I wanted to focus on the positive of our country, and so I wanted to focus particularly on the diversity. Age, ethnicity, even skill level of the saxophone. And so I put out this call to any U.S. sax player to record themselves playing this arrangement I did of America the Beautiful. And I got over 60 people responded. And it took a ton of video editing, audio. I told my wife, remind me never to do something like this again.
I know, I can imagine.
I felt like a zombie on that computer trying. And my poor old 2009 MacBook was like freezing up every other day. I'm just like, I'm going to lose this all and I'm going to go crazy. But I finally got it done, and on 4th of July released it. And so I'm kind of doing some accompanying. Thank you. But yeah, that's on YouTube, and you can check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great arrangement, too.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. It was really cool. So, yeah, guys, definitely check that out on his YouTube channel.
And just one of the, some people, because I like to be inclusive, and some people from other countries were like, oh man, you should do a world version of this, where like all the countries, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please no. Maybe if I have video editing help, I could do that, but
I'm sure if you put the call out, I'm sure there'd be people that would volunteer to do that.
That's a good idea. I'm always afraid to ask people to help me, but you need to do that sometimes.
Sometimes you do. Awesome stuff. Well, I think all these folks here want to see you play, so I think I should stop talking and have you do some stuff.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So
hey everybody, I'm going to play a tune called Poche Muchka, which is Russian for a little kid who asks too many questions. I am a Poche Muchka still.
That was so awesome.
All right, this next tune is one called Empathique, which if you check it out on my YouTube channel, I'm doing this normally with a rapper, but I'm going to do my own version here. All right. This one has a scary beginning, so watch out. Thank you very much.